following program is brought to you by your friends at Podcast One.
DirecTV has been rated #1 in customer satisfaction over cable for 17 years running, but some people still like cable. Just like some people like getting stepped on by their dance partner.
You got the moves.
A warm welcome from La Chancla.
Oh, I missed you too, Mom.
Rubbing their eyes after chopping habaneros.
Oh, spicy. I can see clearly now.
Or receiving a flying kick directly on the shin.
Thanks, I needed that.
But for everyone else, there's DirecTV. For #1 customer satisfaction over cable, switch to DirecTV. Call 1-877-278-1288. Compared to other major subscription TV cable providers. Claim based on 2001 to 2017 ACSI surveys of customers rating their own TV provider's performance. New approved DirecTV customers only. Equipment lease required. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Welcome to RJ Bell's Dream Preview. Weekly winners from his Wise Guy Roundtable. Broadcasting from the pregame.com studios in Las Vegas. Here is RJ Bell.
NFL Week 13 edition with a Wise Guy head-to-head face-off. Steve Fezzik across from me, and I'm going to battle him the entire hour. I'm the underdog for sure, but I tend to win when I'm a dog. Matty Holt, business commitments, but we expect him back next week, thankfully. Last week, obviously, Thanksgiving. But the good news, we've got a write-up on every game for Matty, giving us the sharp money opinion. In addition, in this head-to-head battle with Fez, we've got the pros versus Joes. We've got all the normal stuff, including best bets, public pounders, the power ratings disagreements. But a first time ever, we've got a best bet, which is a crossfire, but also a power ratings disagreement. This is going to be an extravaganza at the very end. I think there's going to be a little blood on the floor. But first, we're going with my disagreement against Fez. Then we'll have Colin Cowherd's disagreement coming up in a minute. It's the Lions and the Ravens. And not only do I disagree with Fez's Ravens ranking, but so does Football Outsiders. We'll be using DVOA as a reference point to see when Fez is different, right? Because sometimes he's going to say, maybe they've got a point. Sometimes he's going to say, here's why I think they're wrong. To me, that's interesting. It's either him maybe hedging a little bit, Fez, and if so, we learn, hey, the power ratings just got better, or this is why the sabermetrics guys are missing something. Because quite frankly, I can guarantee you those sabermetric guys would rather be professional batters. Think about it. All right, let's set some context, Faz. You got the Ravens number 16 in your power rating, 1 point worse than an average NFL team. Football Outsiders has the Ravens number 6. I don't think 6 is right. I don't think 16's right. I'm probably more towards 12 or so. So I think you've got the Ravens underrated. They think you've got the Ravens way underrated. Make the case the Ravens are a below average team.
Well, they're certainly below average on offense and defense when you combine it together. They have an elite defense. They have arguably the worst offense in the league, RJ. And if you look at the underlying numbers, the metric yards per play, they only average 4.4 yards per play. That's last in the league. Their defense is elite. They only give up 4.8. But I don't think their defense is as good as advertised because look at their schedule. They played a whole bunch of cupcakes, teams that have bad offenses, including 3 backup quarterbacks. When they played Green Bay, they got to play Hundley. When they played Oakland, Carr was gone. They got to play against Manuel. And then when they played Houston, they got to play against Savage. Now, one thing where I think Football Outsiders probably factors in more heavily than I do, and possibly I'm wrong here, special teams. Baltimore has awesome special teams. Tucker's the best field goal kicker in the league, and they have a really good punter. And just across the board, they're really, really good in special teams. That's probably why their number's so high.
Okay, so you said Football Outsiders probably factors it in more than you do. So you just don't factor in special, because it seems to me if you say one of the best offense or one of the best defenses, one of the worst offenses, that sounds like an average team. Now you throw in elite special teams, even if you don't weight that a third, you would still say, oh, they're moving towards 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, but I think they're literally the worst offense in the NFL. So last in offense, top 5 defense, and add that up, and they'd be a little bit below average.
And I do think, well, yeah, but before you roll in special teams. But I think you're saving grace. And I'm not, listen, this is certainly not some exact math, but my guess is I would say there's 5 units. Give 2 units to, and when I say units, I don't mean offensive unit, but let's say we're weighting 5 weight points. I'll give 2 for offense, 2 for defense, and 1 for special team. I'm going to double weight offense and defense myself. I'm not sure. Does that sound about right? Because I do think with special teams, too, there's a lot of luck. Usually the correlation year to year, there's a handful of teams that have it, where they're good and they stay good, or they're bad and they stay bad. Usually special teams has high variance year to year, though admittingly the Ravens are a team that have been high on special teams for many years.
Yeah, and a big part of that is just Tucker is so much better as a kicker than anybody else in the NFL. But let's face it, any NFL kicker hitting a 38-yarder is going to make it 85% of the time. So Tucker makes it 94% or whatever it is. But the fact that he can bomb them from 50-plus and make most of them really is a special weapon.
Now, you make a great point. Of all the things you've said so far, the idea that not only do you have to look at strength of schedule, but when you're breaking down offense and defense, you have to look at the strength of opposing offenses and look at the strength of opposing defenses if you're looking at your offense, obviously. And then you got to consider their strength when they played you, specifically with quarterback injuries, right? You could have some cluster injuries, I guess, on defense, but in general, that quarterback might move things, 7-8 points.
Yeah, and I really think that Oakland, if you got Oakland without Carr, and that was just one game all year long where he didn't play, and Baltimore was the recipient, and they crushed Oakland, that was a very, very fortuitous scheduling break. So
if the Ravens defense isn't second, third, or fourth, but rather 7th or 8th, because of the strength of the offenses that they've opposed, now it starts to make sense to be right in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and the eye test also, when I watch Flacco, he's just horrendous each and every week.
We've already acknowledged it. I'm giving you the worst offense. It can't get worse than worst, right? All right, let's look at the game here. Ravens favored by 3, little extra juice on the dog here. Lean or like?
I lean to Detroit. I think a big part of that is just the extra prep time. They've got 10 days, and Baltimore with just 6 days, I think that's a key edge towards the Lions.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
All right, and you also like the over here.
I like the over a great deal, and it comes back to that strength of schedule. Not only has Baltimore gotten to play a whole bunch of teams missing their starting quarterbacks, but when they play a team with their starting quarterback, it's not necessarily a good starting quarterback. And teams with really good defenses, they're playing the Jacksonville, the Tennessee Titans, the Minnesotas, the Cincinnati Bengals, teams that are not high scoring. So because of that, their year-to-date averages are really low for both teams in terms of how many points are being put on the board. Now they're finally, I'd make the case, RJ, this is the first over team they played all year long in the Detroit Lions, but we have a really low total, 40.5, because of the year-to-date scoring averages.
Okay, interesting. Let's get, well, first, I'll go with a lean on Baltimore. I was moving towards a like, but that idea, the strength of the offenses they've opposed in those games resonated with me. And guys, this is why, quite frankly, something like the Dream Preview, and when I say something like it, well, there's only one, right? But some variation you might get other places. And again, all joking aside, there's some good info out there, really good. It's pregame doesn't have a monopoly on great info, not even close. I do think the dynamic of the Dream Preview and the fact of our tenacity fighting each other, because really the truth is what we want to win, at least the truth as we see it. That's why there's fights. And I do think that's something that is quite unique. But to me, the value of it is you listen and say, maybe they're right. Politics, if you're on the left, you're on the right. Very few times does anyone change their mind, even an iota. Something we try to do here is keep an open mind. So you've moved me more towards a lean on the Ravens versus a like. All right, smart money report. Won $5,000 bet on Baltimore from a really sharp player. And additionally, and he doesn't talk totals too much, Maddie, max bets on over 40.5 and over 41 from a sharp better. So there you go, Fez. Over from Fez, the strong one here. All right, game number 2. We've got an RJ disagreement. And so I'm giving a second one and a Football Outsiders disagreement. And oh, by the way, it's a pros versus Joes. Let's start there. Chargers favored by 14 against the Browns. Let's create a little history here. Chargers are the first team in December or later to be under 500 and be favored by more than 13 points. So think about that. Under 500. Why does December or later matter? Because under 500 means something. Right? 0-1 doesn't mean much. But late in the year, if you're under 500, it should be telling. But man, oh man, we've got the Chargers highly rated, and that's going to be a disagreement we're going to get to. But history here being this big of a favor since 2000, so 17 years. All right, let's talk pros versus Joes. This is from Matty Holt. Pros on, yeah, you can guess it, the Browns. Whenever we play the Browns, we got to start playing the bumbling music. Those Browns. And the Joes on the Chargers. Football Outsiders, let's get to the disagreement here. And I agree with this one. You've got the Chargers 8th in the NFL, Fez. So that means, and you got them tied with Carolina. So the only teams you have better than the Chargers, the Saints, the Vikings, the Rams, the Falcons, the Steelers, the Patriots, and the Eagles. I think the Chargers probably are 11, 12. So I agree they're way above average for a team that's below 500. But the DVOA, number 15, or actually number 16. So you've got them 8. DVOA says 16. I agree with DVOA, or at least I'm more in that direction. Make your case.
Wow. Well, I'll strongly disagree with them being a middle-of-the-pack team. Phillip Rivers, really good quarterback. Offense is gelling. Brand new coach, Coach Lynn, wasn't ready to go. They open up 0-4. I'm going to take a lot of those stats, throw them in the garbage can. Team wasn't ready. Since then, 5-2.
Wait. So it's the game that they won. The first game they won is when they got ready.
Well, I'll do a weighted average saying the most recent results are more significant than week 1, especially under a first-year head coach. I really like the pass rush that has emerged. They've got 2 awesome defensive ends that absolutely are wreaking havoc. The defense is peaking. That Bosa is a beast. The eye test, I hate to say eye test, when I watch the Chargers, they look like a absolute Super Bowl contender. Their stats are good. They're plus 0.6 yards per play, the metric we love to look at. The one issue I do have, they have been the recipient the last 2 weeks of some very favorable scheduling. They got the Peterman experiment against Buffalo. That is certainly skewing the stats. And they got Dallas without their linebacker, Sean Lee, and without Elliott.
Okay, so it sounds like you're conceding my point a little bit. So let's think if you just downgraded them a half a point. So you'd be so if Carolina and the Chargers played on a neutral, you'd be no problem if someone wanted to bet you big on Carolina at even money.
If they laid $1.10, I'd have no problem. But I agree. That's a good point. If it was minus 101, I would probably bet Carolina. So the Chargers 3, maybe a half point too high.
All right. Woo! I'll take it, baby. Listen, a win's a win. It's psyching me up for the rest of the pod.
I actually started the rating at 2.5 this week, and I consulted with my experts who talked me into a 3.
We didn't talk.
One of my experts.
Oh, all right. So now Pros versus Joes. We talked about it. Now, listen, we know about those Browns, right? I'm not betting them this week. I'll give it away. I'm leaning Browns, especially with the idea of the back. I'd rather, we're going to play the Browns here, I'd do it on the money line. What we've seen is, obviously it's a long shot, but what we've seen is Kaiser, 6 points covering the spread with the ball at the end. You're about 50-50, it seems, right? So if you do like the Browns, I would look towards the money line, because at least then it's like, hey, they spring a surprise.
Well, the pros bet the Browns seemingly every week, and under Hugh Jackson, they're 6-21 against the spread. So that hasn't been working out real well. To the Browns' favor,
it's process. Trust the process.
Yeah, the process was only going to last 5 more games. On a positive side, Kaiser's got good chemistry with one of his wide receivers, Coleman, right now. Had a big game against the Bengals, and he gets back off suspended Josh Gordon, who is a stud wide receiver who has not played all year long. So now get this, Cleveland arguably has 2 number 1 wide receivers coming into play. That's a reason to like the Browns, to be able to score some points even against that very good Charger defense. But RJ, here's why I don't like the Browns. The Browns have won 1 game the last 2 years against the San Diego Chargers. So if there's one team that should not be overlooking the Browns, it's the Chargers, who lost outright to them last year.
But isn't there another way to look at that, which is the match? I guess you got a new coach on the Chargers, right? So you would think about, hey, schematically, it's an advantage for the Browns.
You could look at it that way. I look at it, hey, we're the only guys that lost. It's the same players, and we've managed to lose to these turkeys last year. We're not going to look past this game.
You do like, and again, we usually do 1 total, but you like 2 a lot this week.
Yeah, I like the over. It's all about the Cleveland wide receivers. With Gordon and Coleman, they're going to put some points on the board. And also, because the Chargers lost last year to Cleveland, I think if they get a chance, they'll want to try to bury this team and not let up in the 4th quarter. Looking over.
Over, Fez's pick. So we don't hit anyone with Huey on that one. Stay tuned. Next game, another DVOA disagreement, but also Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd has the Atlanta Falcons number 9. DVOA has the Falcons number 15. 15. Fez, you got the Falcons number 4. Make your case.
Yeah, and it's a 4-way tie for 4th, but I absolutely think they belong there.
So it's Falcons, Rams, Vikings, Saints.
Yeah, and if you're going to split decimals, they're clearly better than the Rams.
So Fez, just to let you know, when you rate a team 4, you don't have to tell us you think they're 4.
They're 4.
I got it. I got that part. Now make your case.
Statistically, they're number 1. The number 1
net yards per play.
Net yards per play, they're plus 1.1. That's right on par where they were last year when they made the Super Bowl. How good are those numbers? Well, 6.1 yards per play on offense. That puts them in the top 4 in the league, certainly. Defense, top 7 in the league, only giving up 5 yards per play. And they've done this on offense despite some injuries. Freeman, their starting running back's been out. He was out the entire game last game against Tampa Bay. Coleman had to play the whole game. Now Freeman is back. Julio Jones was hurt for a game. Sanu was hurt for a game. So some of their weapons have been out over the course of the season. Despite that, they're still number 1 in the NFL in their strength of schedule. Nothing wrong with that. It's above average, but they're 7-4.
So let's talk some. And again, we don't want to rattle too many numbers off. So let's slow it down. Atlanta net yards per play, number 1 in the NFL. On defense, they're number 10. On offense, they're number 2, the Falcons. Their strength of schedule, Jeff Sagarin, number 15. So above average, you're low strong. It's technically correct. And by the way, this is fascinating. Year over year, exactly the same net yards per play. So the team that made the Super Bowl was plus 1.1 net. They're plus 1.1 this year. Now, I will concede a strong point. I've never seen a team get bet more in the last 6 weeks. If you just look at the Falcons line moves and say in any 6-week period, the last 10 years, tell me the aggregate move. Let's say a team moves up 3 points a game and then against them 2 points the next game. So now it's say plus 1, right? So plus 3 in one, minus 2 in the other. And if you just kind of add it up over a 6-game period, I can't see a situation, or I don't recall a situation where and I know you don't have total recall on this, where any team's been bet as much as the Falcons by the Sharps, because they're the ones really moving the line. than the Falcons have in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, and the poster child.
So do you agree with that?
I agree with it. And the poster child game, of course, was the Monday night game at Seattle, where they open up catching 3 points and they close a 1.5 point favorite at Seattle.
And remember, they were a 3-point favorite at Carolina, right? They opened up +2 and they closed -3.
Yeah, and Carolina's right below all these teams in my power ratings.
Yeah, so to me, you are with your brethren, the wise guys here. But listen, if all it took was to say net yards per play, and by the way, on Twitter, what I do is I send out every Thursday right before the Thursday night game. You can follow me on Twitter.
His Twitter handle is @RJ in Vegas.
Is I put out my, Fez, let's agree, maybe the best yards per play sheet you've ever seen?
Easily the best.
I think it's true. We got the offense, we got the defense, we got the net, we got last year, we got the year-over-year arithmetic, also the turnovers and strength of schedule, all on one printable page at RJ in Vegas. So once someone says, okay, they say the wise guys are good, or love net yards per play, that's good for them. I'm just going to look at this sheet, and I don't need to hear these guys. So Falcons are 1. I get it. They're good. I think it's always more important to say that's the starting point. Now, why would net yards per play, like you did with Baltimore, why might they be off? My question to you is, and not that you know every element of the algorithm of DVOA, but why do you, because it does seem almost unbelievable that Falcons would be average, number 15, slightly above average, but like, you have any sense of why DVOA now? And by the way, Colin had it at 9. And again, I think Colin's just not I think for a radio guy, he's about as sharp as they come. But the idea of, hey, I think that with almost everyone but professional batters or pure math guys, they do focus too much on the record. And when the Falcons record wasn't, obviously the record's gotten better, but they were 4-4, right? 3 weeks ago. And it felt like, and it was an easy narrative, Super Bowl letdown, look at them in the red zone, where in truth, as we said, let's take a bow here, that whenever the full field stats say one thing and the red zone says another, the red zone tends to move towards the full field stats.
Yes, and the real issue here is the Falcons have had bad red zone offense. To assume they're suddenly going to revert back to what their overall stat should be, I think is a leap of faith. The answer is somewhere in between, where with those great offensive stats, maybe they should score 73% touchdowns in the red zone, and now they've only been scoring, like, I don't know what the number is, but maybe it's a little above 50%, and it should be somewhere in between, say 62% going forward.
But if anything, that's making the case that you can't just look at net yards per play and say, oh, this is one of the best teams. But let's zero in on the question. What could be, play devil's advocate? Why reasonably could someone think the Falcons are almost average? I mean, or even say 9?
If they weight red zone efficiency, they think they're well, that not would very be good.
It's like saying, oh, any team that has pink in their logo, we're going to make in the bottom half of the league. It'd be that illogical to especially weight, because red zone is going to be so correlated to scores and wins and losses anyway. If you weighted it more in the stats, it'd be pretty egregious, I would say.
It's a mystery to me why my numbers disagree so much with someone else's, because like I said, across the board, the Falcons carry a solid numbers this year. And if you weighted some of the results from last year, they were in the Super Bowl last year.
All right, so let's look at the game. Falcons at home favored by 3, but there's a lot of extra juice on the Vikings, -125 right now. Lean or like?
Tough game. I lean Atlanta. The Vikings have 10 days off. That certainly helps them. I think that my home field advantage, I've gone back and forth in that new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Very limited data year to date. But when a really good team plays in the Dome, RJ, usually in a big game against a premium opponent, you can raise that home field up to 3.5. That's why I would lean to Atlanta.
I'm going to lean Minnesota. Here's my thinking. I don't think a game impressed me more than Minnesota on Thanksgiving. They had the biggest win of the year against the Rams on the prior Sunday. So Sunday to celebrate, Monday to recover, Tuesday do some prep, Wednesday travel, play on Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time in division against a Lions team that's average, not below average. And to cover that spread, And I mean, to me, that's a win. Agree or disagree?
I agree. But however, and when we did the pod last week, we discussed this. Minnesota had lost 3 straight gut-wrenching losses against the Lions.
But Fez, I get it. If it was questionable why they'd be motivated, that would have helped them. But if all it took was will not to be tired, then they wouldn't have fed a bunch of amphetamines to the fighters in wars in Vietnam and all that, right? Because it's life and death. You would think, hey, they don't need any speed because our greenies, as they call them in baseball, I guess, because life and death. It's like there is physiological realities. And in the NFL, to play travel on a Thursday and play, 8 hours before you typically would play, even if it was a night game, that feels like something you can't just will yourself not to be affected by.
Well, I think it'll impact you less if you have extra motivation, and the Vikings certainly did, and that's why I did like them in that game.
I also think the Falcons have a little fatigue. When you have where it feels like you almost must-win games, and we talked about this earlier in the week, and you agreed with it. I mean, we can go back in their schedule and kind of go through, but I mean, from the Cowboys game on, not must wins as much, but I remember the narrative in that Dallas game was whoever wins this game, doubles your chances of the playoffs, and whoever loses it cuts them in half. And then they've had some tough games since, and it feels like you can't just keep playing at the high. There's a reason there's flat spots.
Yeah, it's a great point, but I'd argue last week was their flat spot. They're a 9-point favorite at home against Tampa Bay, so how much energy did they really have to expend?
Yeah, I hear you, but and the fact they did pretty well there, I still think that all right, maybe that's less of a point than I thought.
It was a close game against Tampa Bay, misleading final.
Yeah, but still, that would almost make your point, right? But I'm still going to lean Minnie. I think Minnie's just a little bit better. I think situationally we might have a half a point here, and I think Minnie's probably a half a point better, and because of that, I think I lean Minnie, but I don't like it. All right, next game. And by the way, we've got a triple like coming up. Fazme and the smart money. Next game, though, a public pounder. This is when the public is pounding one side, and a power ratings edge. This is a new thing. We're always trying to improve. What's a power ratings edge? It means that if you just did the math on Fez's power ratings and take into account home field, there seems to be a clear play. So we're going to find out, hey, do you like this side? Or is there something on top of the power rating, situationally, trends, matchups, that's causing you not to like the obvious side due to your power ratings? It's Patriots, it's Bills. By the way, the public pounder, you could guess it. Patriots, 97% of the cash, 92% of the tickets. By the way, you go to pregame.com, click Game Center, then click Consensus tab in the Game Center, and you see splits on every game: football, basketball, baseball, every game, hockey, the amount of tickets on one side, amount of tickets on the other, the amount of cash on one side, amount of cash on the other. Only place on the internet to get live cash data for free. No other place. Pregame.com, click Game Center. All right, so public on the Pats. Your power ratings edge, Fez, is if you just do the math, take into account home field, the Pats should be favored by 6. But actually, the Pats in this game on the road favored by 9. Why do you think there's such an edge here?
Well, why is the line so high compared to my number? It's all about the NFL favorites just kicking butt since week 7. They've covered, RJ, 68% since week 7. It's been a tremendous run of favorites. And what's happening is the odds makers are tired of getting beat, and they're putting the numbers higher. The public, the bettors, are just going to keep playing the teams that they've been winning with, the Eagles, the Patriots, and they're going to bet those teams regardless of what the number is. And that explains why a game I have power rated at 6 is being dealt a field goal almost higher.
Okay, and it's probably all favorites going to have a little premium on them, but these public teams even more so.
Absolutely, and I think the public is ignoring some factors. I'm going to lean with Buffalo here. I hate betting.
All right, so the power ratings say it's a like. What's causing you not to like it?
Because I hate betting against Belichick. He just finds ways to absolutely, even though I skew my power ratings, I don't just look at yards per play. I jack the Patriots way higher than they deserve to be.
Than their stats.
Than their stats. I'm sorry, not than they deserve to be, but than what their pure stats are. But even doing that, it's so rare that the Patriots wind up being a good bet against. However, in this case, not only do I have the numbers going for me, I do think that the Bills, now that they switched back to Taylor at quarterback, are much more motivated. And I think there was a game in the Buffalo stats, the Peterman game against the Chargers, that skewed their stats way to the negative. And further, the weather report, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, that's going to help Buffalo. Buffalo runs the ball more than half the time. What do the Patriots do best? Throw the ball.
That's interesting. The weather is a big one for sure there. Great factor. I'm going to lean Pats, and there's one reason. I think there's been a change on the Bills. Now, first off, I really question the way the team would perform with after the Peterman incident. It's almost like the spaghetti incident or something. The incident on 52nd Street.
Can we call him Peterson again?
Hey, we were fortune tellers. He didn't deserve, at least as an NFL quarterback, us learning his name, right? Because we're never going to have to worry about it again, I don't think. And again, these are humans, right? But they're getting paid a lot of money, so we can be fans a little bit, I guess. I question the way the Bills would respond to what seemed like front office shenanigans, but they seem to respond really well. You watched the game. What did you see from the Bills effort-wise?
I saw a Bills team that just took it to Kansas City. I saw a defense that had been torched the last 2 weeks playing all in. And frankly, on offense, they got limitations with Taylor. That defense won that game.
Okay, I'm going to go to a pass. I was leaning New England. You talked me off it. I'm going to go a pass. Here's why I don't even lean Buffalo, though, and I certainly don't like them, is Marcel Darius. When he was on the Bills, they were giving up 2.5 yards per carry. When he's been off the Bills, they've been horrible against the run, well over 4 yards. Now, I get last week they played better, but I've got enough games now to think that if you look at the full season stats, a guy like Darius, who doesn't tend to move the needle, if you actually look when he's on the field, when he's off the field, it's a gigantic difference. And I can't look at those Bills defensive stats and trust them now that he's not on the field. Is that going to make you change your mind?
I'm not betting the Bills, but it's an excellent point. I think what is most excellent about that is you want to find players that should move the needle, but don't. That's a big edge.
It's a way to find mispricing, which is our ultimate goal. So Fez leans Buffalo, and I've moved to a pass on that game. By the way, Smart Money Report, 3 times more New England money on account, which is the sharps, 5 times more all over the counter, which is squares. So we've got the public and the pros both on the Pats. In this case, Fez, you lean Buffalo. Another reason I think this is a tough one. I don't see any betting from us on that one. Speaking of that, we're coming up not that far from very actionable games, the smart money games, double like, triple like, best bets, etc. All right, public pounder number 2, Rams, Cardinals. Rams open up 5.5 on the road, up to 7. 90% of the tickets on the Rams. Lean or like?
Lean to Arizona, almost alike. My power ratings don't actually support this, but the situation does support it. All about remembering London. These two teams played in London earlier in the year, 33-0. Rams destroyed Arizona. Now, I'm not a big revenge guy in the NFL. I think it's overrated in most cases. But when you get beat 33-0, and then you have to go and take a bye on top of it, that's a game you're going to remember. Gabbert's playing much better than I expected him to be playing for Arizona. The best third-string quarterback in the league. Heck, he's playing like the best second-string quarterback. There's a lot to like about Arizona because of the situational spot.
Isn't Case Keenum the best third-string quarterback in the league?
He's the best starter.
Wow. You don't believe that one. All right. I'm actually going to lean Arizona, too. To me, I like the Rams. I mean, DVOA, they're number 1. I think they're even better than people think. I like the coach, Steve Cofield, the host of our Fox national show, first show and only show ever on one of the 3 main national radio networks, ESPN, CBS, or Fox. That is Las Vegas odds and predictions. Straight out of Vegas, pregame.com show. Fez, you anchor our expertise, the wise guy chair, as we call it, on the Fox National show. Cofield hosts, I co-host, and Brad Powers on the college side. And Cofield calls him the boy genius. He loves McVay. I like a lot of what they're doing. A lot of people think it's all about the quarterback. Goff, I think his improvement's key. But if you look, they're better on defense and special teams, the Rams are, than they even are on offense.
Yeah, and one thing about the Rams, they can step it up and play with anybody, but they did that last week. Huge home win against the Saints, a team that's every bit as good as them. I don't like to back a team off of a signature win like that.
And I agree with that. I think there's a letdown. Also, I don't like to bet teams in unique or new situations. Rams being a touchdown favorite on the road is just a new situation. And in general, the pitfalls, the sandwich spots, the flat spots, whatever you want to call it, that can come in the NFL, I think the Patriots of the world, those kind of teams, know better how to deal with them than a team that's fresh in these kind of new situations.
Agree. And, with the inflation that we're seeing on favorites, who knows? Maybe we get 7.5 on Arizona, upgrade them to a like if that happens.
All right, so I lean Arizona from Fez. No real smart money yet for Matty Holt. Nothing noteworthy there. Next game, Monday Night Football. And then we got pros versus Joes next. Steelers, Bengals. Steelers favored by 5.5 on the road. So let's do smart money first. 90% of the account action on the Bengals so far. So sharps on the Bengals. And it makes sense. This is almost a pros versus Joes because you look at it, 62% on the Steelers right now. So take account wise. So almost, but sharps clearly on the Bengals. Lean or like?
Lean to the Bengals, going up against a lot of trends here. But the big picture is, hey, the Bengals were 12-4 in 2015. They had 5 straight playoff trips in a row. Then they had one bad year, 6-9-1. The public gave up on them when they started 0-3. They've been playing very well since then. They're 5-3 straight up. They finally got the running game going with Mixon, finally with that bad O-line last week. But what's happened here is that the Steelers have been playing so well themselves, they've dwarfed the Bengals. The public's not paying attention to the Bengals. Just a month and a half ago, these two teams played. They played in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was laying 3.5. Look at this line value adjustment. Now they're playing in the jungle, and Pittsburgh is laying 5.5 on the road. Just too much of a point spread tax now on the Steelers, who are 6-0 straight up.
So here's the thing. Let's really quantify that change, because if Pittsburgh at home is favored by 3.5, it's saying they're a half a point better. Now the fact Pittsburgh is favored by 5.5 on the road means they're 8.5 points better. Thus, there's been an 8-point net swing in those 6 weeks. And if anything, I think the Bengals are probably playing as well. I think the Bengals, their stats were pretty good going into that Pittsburgh game. It was almost like a Chargers scenario. It's like, wow, their stats are better. But then they played bad for a while, for sure, after the Pittsburgh game and onward. But and again, this is an aberration, and we can always go back 5 weeks to make it sound interesting. But I do think there's something to this about the Bengals playing better. If you look at quarterback rating, last 5 weeks, Andy Dalton's rating is better than a little quarterback named Carson Wentz. So Carson Wentz, not a lesser quarterback rating than Andy Dalton.
But the reason
last 5 weeks,
the reason it's only a lean, and I'm sure there's some listeners that are want to chime in. Andy Dalton also is bad in primetime games. There's a reason the Bengals never win any playoff games. The Bengals, in fact, are bad on Monday Night Football, 9-16 against the spread. Tomlin is 17-5 straight up, 16-6 against the spread against the Bengals. He takes these division games very seriously. And Big Ben, this surprised me, is 32-19 against the spread in December. So some strong trend plays. And remember, the Steelers, the book on them is they play better primetime games.
And Pittsburgh has played better in Cincinnati because a lot of fans, people don't realize it's only about a 3-hour drive or so.
And Big Ben from Ohio, so I know Northern Ohio, but he plays very well in Cleveland and in Cincinnati.
No, well, everyone plays well in Cleveland, so except Kaiser,
except the Chargers.
Everyone except the Browns, and so Pittsburgh good in Cincy. I think the Bengals are playing better. I lean that way, but I don't like it, as you said, because this is a high motivation spot for the Steelers. They had their letdown last week, as we discussed, and I expect a good game out of them.
This is RJ Bell's Dream Preview.
DirecTV has been rated #1 in customer satisfaction over cable for 17 years running, but some people still like cable. Just like some people like getting stepped on by their dance partner.
You've got the moves.
A warm welcome from La Chancla.
Oh, I missed you too, Mom.
Rubbing their eyes after chopping habaneros.
Oh, spicy. I can see clearly now.
Or receiving a flying kick directly on the shin.
Thanks, I needed that.
But for everyone else, there's DirecTV. For #1 customer satisfaction over cable, switch to DirecTV. Call 1-877-278-1288. Compared to other major subscription TV cable providers. Claim based on 2001 to 2017 ACSI surveys of customers rating their own TV provider's performance. New approved DirecTV customers only. Equipment lease required. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Now back to RJ Bell's Dream Preview.
Okay, next up, Pros versus Joes. Maybe we get a little Huey here. Broncos, Dolphins. This one, Broncos. So the smart money is on the Broncos, and it's been bet that way. On the road, Broncos open as a 1-point underdog, 1.5-point favorite now. Dolphins now a home underdog. Your boy, Pat, all right, time to answer for Lynch. We were on Straight Out of Vegas at length. I was imploring you, don't bet Lynch. Don't, just my arms were moving. My hands went into like a folded position. And what did you do?
I bet on Lynch.
So in hindsight, do you see the wisdom?
I'm a freaking idiot. I actually said, how can he be worse than the quarterbacks that generated a -16 turnover differential, Simeon Osweiler, who both been playing injured? Well, I was wrong. He's even worse. There's something about I spoke to Ross Tucker about this, a former NFL lineman. Once a quarterback is over 6'6", he's just so clumsy, and his release takes so much time. No matter how good he is in a combine, he's just no good in a real game. And we saw that with Lynch. If you watched that, it was a blessing to the Broncos that he got injured. Simeon came in down 21-0, rallied the team, the much better of the three bad quarterback options here for Denver. And that's why money's coming on Denver, because at least Denver has a not horrendous quarterback this week.
Okay, so first question is, the narrative on Simeon was he's never going to be a franchise quarterback, but maybe Simeon could be the 20th best quarterback or 22nd in the NFL. That was entering this year. And you heard people like Mike Lombardi saying, hey, he was even hurt last year. He's even better than he looked, or at least a significant portion of the year. Well, his arm strength seemed to be a huge problem to the point that this defense or this offense couldn't do anything. From what you saw on the field last week, where's Simeon's health at?
I still don't think he's 100%. I think it's had a lot to do with he was able to play against the Oakland defense that everyone looks pretty good against.
Well, everyone but Lynch.
Everyone but Lynch, correct. And I'm worried about Simeon long-term. We see this with some quarterbacks. They get banged up and they just never are able to improve. Simeon's taken so many hits. He's had so many repeated injuries, shoulders, legs. Is he ever going to be fully healthy in this league?
And that's the thing is, I know that some people say injuries are all luck and there's no such thing as injury prone. I think some people just have brittle bones. Some people soft tissue. Listen, I'm no doctor. I don't play one on TV, but is the idea of, I've seen people growing up even that every time a guy fell down, he had a sprained ankle, and there were some guys you could drop him off a roof and he'd get up and walk away. Right. And I think you can see with guys like, there's some guys that just don't get hurt. I know there's some luck to it, but it's not all luck, I don't think. All right, so I actually like Miami here, and here's why. Oh, wait a minute. I don't particularly like doing this, but, to be fair. So as we said, pros versus Joes, pros on the Broncos, Joe's on the Dolphins, and I'm on the Dolphins. You know how they say a man like that wears a pink shirt, let's say let's say you grow up in a tough area and things aren't as, people aren't as open-minded as they are today, back in the old days, or maybe even today where I grew up. If you wear a pink shirt, it's like that guy must be secure in his masculinity, or why would he wear a pink shirt? Right? Well, I consider me knowing, see, you guys don't know for sure what the sharp grade is. Fez, you got great instincts on it, but you don't know exactly what Maddie says when you make your picks. I knew it when I bet, I didn't bet him, and remember, it's probably a good time to talk about that. So we lean her like nearly every game, though we give one pass and a total and derivatives, and we got a teaser coming up too. But we want you to at least know, hey, a half point one way or the other. This is clear. It could move a point and a half, and I would still at least lean that way. And then amongst all the likes, you're going to bet some of the games, right? 2 or 3 a week, maybe on the sides. And obviously, best bet's the one you like best of all the games. And these are early, right? We're taping on Wednesday, where you release your stuff up at pregame.com, and we'll have a coupon coming up later in the show, which is your late releases, your very best stuff, and you bet every one of those. This is a like for me, but because I don't want to buck the sharps that much, I'm not going to bet it. But it does take guts, and I just would say confidence. Just that inner confidence some people have. And I'm not going to say I've got it, but I think someone who would pick the Dolphins when they know that he's going to get Huey'd, I think a lot of people would say that I've got it.
I'd say you've got some irony because you correctly told me not to bet on Paxton Lynch last week, and you are 100% correct, spot on, and now you are leaning with Jay Cutler.
Well, think about this. The Broncos have played. The Broncos had 4 straight games that they lost by 10 points or double digits every game. Then they lost a close game, and then they lost how much? What was the final last week?
21-14.
But they got
down 21-0.
Yeah. So not double digits, but so they've lost 6 straight games by over 40 points. Just doing a little math in my head. How in the heck are they road favorites? I don't care if you're playing the worst team or not.
Because Miami's managed to lose by 40 points in one game this year, RJ.
Well, no, fair enough. But listen, the Broncos didn't lose by exactly 10 of those games, right? But the point I'm saying is, let's look at your power ratings. I mean, where do you have the Broncos 23? What's the matter with you? Football Outsiders or DVOA has them 27. But plus Football Outsiders at least is blending the stats the whole season. How could you think right now you actually think Denver's playing the same as San Francisco, better than Green Bay, better than Arizona? If Denver and Arizona played on a neutral right now, you would have Denver favored.
Yeah. Well, maybe I fell in love a little bit with Simeon in the fourth quarter. Hey, they had the ostrich going for a month and a half. He was awful as well. That defense, when properly motivated under Simeon, is going to be just fine. And you know what? After they beat Miami, you're going to agree with me.
Yeah. So to me, now listen, remember, guys, this is the important saying. And Jimmy Vaccaro, a legendary bookmaker and a real class act, I think, in town, he coined the phrase, at least the first guy I heard it from: professional bettors bet numbers, recreational bettors bet teams. And to me, I get it. Broncos a +1, okay, maybe, but now they're -1.5. That's where I'm grading now, or assessing now. To me, it's maybe not quite as sharp. It's not really sharp at 1.5, because if it were, it would be bet to 2, right?
That's a great point. I have these teams 1.5 apart. I've got Miami, the worst team, 1.5 for a small home field advantage. My power rating numbers make this game pick 'em, even with all of Miami's problems. So I really have no dog in this hunt.
That's interesting. It always shows you, listen, all we're doing is trying to estimate here, because sharp money by definition is going to move the line. And once it starts moving, it means they're done thinking there's value, because they'll keep betting it if they think there's value.
And there's guys frankly, that will make a bet on a Denver at plus 105, saying, you know what? I don't even like this. I hate this bet, but I know I'm going to get plus 108 back in the other direction. I'm just going to earn with it.
And you don't know. It's that, I guess if you're able to steam chase an action, if you're in front of the screen and you're getting a lagging line.
Or if you got my power ratings access to what I think.
The free power ratings. By the way, Fez, first place to get the power ratings, Fez on Twitter, at Fezzik Sports, Fezzik, Fezzik, Fezzik Sports on Twitter. And that's his only Twitter account, Fezzik Sports. All right. So you passed this game. You talked about Simeon. Cutler looks like he's playing. We're taping on Wednesday. Worst stats in the NFL for Miami. I agree with that. Any closing thoughts?
One closing thought, just because it applies to a couple games this week. When you see a line moving from like plus 1.5 to minus 1.5, you say, well, that's not that big a deal. And I agree. It's not that big a deal. It is important. For the teaser players out there, pay a lot of attention to these pick'em games, because it's not unusual that you might well be able to tease a +1 up to a +7, and then it flips at this. It not even flips it at the same time. You can get a +1.5 on the other side and tease that team up to +7.5.
But obviously not at the same book.
But not at the same book, and not at and not putting them together by any means. So
that's interesting. Let's think about that. Wow, I never thought of that. First, let's give Fez his due here. Only in dreams you're getting stuff like that. So you're at, let's say there's a +1.5 ideally, right? Because you want to get or you lay the little extra and go from, pick them or 1 to 8, right? Because you want to get through 7 either way.
1 to 7.5.
Yeah, exactly. 1 to 7.5 is a 6.5. Okay, yeah.
Like example, Thursday, Thanksgiving. This Thursday, you've got a game that flipped that way. So I woke up and I saw the money moving on the Redskins, and I went ahead and teased the Redskins up from +1 to +7.5. Actually thinking to myself, I bet I'll be teasing Dallas later in the week.
I know. Let's think about this. So let's just say you get your 7.5. Okay, good. Now, at another book, maybe at the same time, though, you're usually not going to see that much of a variation. But you will sometimes see a -1 and a +1, actually. But let's say it just moves one tick to pick them. Now there's going to be some places that are going to be +1 the other way. Now you go up to 7.5 there, and you might say, well, you got 2 pieces, but why is it, deserving the only in dreams? It's because now with your money management and stuff, you're guaranteed to win 1 with obviously a humongous chance to win 2, but then it allows you to potentially. Now, would you be inclined to bet the same team on the other side? Whereas, let's say you loved a team at +8.5 or something, let's say from +2.5. Would you be inclined to bet as the second leg in both? And now you've got a situation where you just win 1 and you're going to at worst, lose a little vig. And then if it falls in that, big old cavern of +7.5 each way, you win both?
Yes, especially, and this is high level stuff.
It looks like Fez is trying to decide if he's going to give this one away. But hey, if you start, you got to finish.
I love teasing the second leg, a -7 that I already like, down to a -1.5, RJ. And let's think about this. So after the first leg of my teasers wins, the second leg is -0.5. That's a de facto money line bet now on the second leg. If I just want to earn, I can come back and play a money line on the dog plus the 325 and lock in a profit.
Ooh. Now, but that's sharp as all get out if you were doing high frequency, like if you could do thousands of those. But unless you bet a gigantic amount, unless you like locking in the profit, why wouldn't you just why would you? Because every time you make a bet, you're getting charged vig one way or the other.
Because the favorites are running right now. So a lot of times you can tease early in the week a -7 down to -0.5, and then it's going to go up to 7.5. There'll be an 8.5 at a station casino.
Okay, so the theory is you might even like that money line by itself at that point on the dog.
Right.
Because it's run up. Okay. Honestly, guys, and it's probably important saying it. When Fez came to me, he was, not near as famous as he is now. Would you agree with that?
Only had like 12,000 followers on Twitter.
All right. But he was the only 2-time Super Contest champion before we ever met. I was a fan of his from a distance. And that's true. And the fact of the matter is that when he came in, I said, Fez, here's the thing. I know a lot of sharps in my life, and they all want to hide. They want to keep the stuff for themselves. I said, anything that people can't really use out there, like you got a lot of parlay card stuff that you just, if you're not in Vegas, you can't use, and you don't owe that to anybody. But when it comes to, and you won, what was it, $55,000 on your parlay on one of your cards this year?
I did, but I just lost a $24,000 parlay card on the Cleveland Browns a couple weeks ago on that +8 against Jacksonville.
Wait a minute.
That made me angry.
Was that the last piece?
It was the fifth leg. It's after the fact I looked at it and I was like, what?
I cannot believe in a town where if you lose by a missed field goal, you hear about it for 2 weeks. You didn't mention that till now?
It's Cleveland. It's routine.
I mean, you got to get some, I gave you the booze. I got to give you some claps for not whining because that's amazing. 24K.
Made me sad.
Kaiser. All right. So, but the point is, what I told you, and you can affirm this, I think, is if it's, you got to give, every pick you give, you got to bet. Every bet that you make, you got to give if there's the ability for someone out there who's following you to make it. Whereas if you're betting some rogue number, no. But if it's something you really believe in and it's market, you give it. And when we do the media, you've got to share the stuff that people can benefit from. If you've got secrets they can't benefit from in any real way, or let's say even a wannabe sharp can't benefit from, meaning that they aren't willing to do what you do, which is track every coin flip, track every, if a team receives or not, and a lot of things that cause you maybe to try to bet first quarters after the coin flip, but before the kickoff. Like that stuff, yeah, there's people willing to do that, but one day we might write a book or I'll get you a ghostwriter and we'll charge maybe $10,000 for the book. Like there's some books like that. You only sell 100 of them and they're $10,000 a piece.
What, you're saying I can't write organized?
Well, we want it to be readable. We'll give it away there for the 10,000 because only the fanatics are going to want it. But to me, one of the things that really separates you is you share so much.
Yeah. And in terms of advantage gambling, there's a book out there called Beyond Counting by James Grosjean that which I didn't even know you knew about. You didn't know I knew about. We were talking about a month ago. I bought it for $39.95 and now I can sell it for $1,000 on the black market.
But how did you buy it for $39.95?
It's just in the bookstore. It has hardly any sales.
That must no. See, I think you must have stumbled on something there because even from the beginning, he only sold the books to people he knew. And he got a personal commitment. You will not give this to anyone else.
I might have bought it from Anthony Curtis.
See, there you go. Right. And so at the time but that was the situation. He said, hey, I want to share this stuff. I want to make some big money on it. Right. Because it was expensive, I think, in most cases at the time. He might have, with friends or whatever, did whatever. But now on the black market, it's very expensive. Like you said, over $1,000.
Just like it's not unusual in the Super Bowl. I'll give one away. Everyone's so busy. Sometimes they put up a prop. Who's going to kick off? All right. It does happen that a team wins the coin toss. They say, we're going to kick off. And that prop stays up until the actual kickoff. And
you take advantage.
I've been known to.
That's why the bookies hate you.
Start 1-0. That's why Super Bowl every year.
That's why the bookies hate you. By the way, I'm going to go through I got a little rant this week, but I'm going to go through a couple more games. So I'm on Miami. Pros on the Broncos.
But I think the pros are on the Broncos catching points.
No doubt. All right, next game. We got teaser number 1. Then we got a derivative bet, Fez's only derivative bet. And then we get into the smart money, double like, triple like, best bets. All right, teaser game. Giants, Raiders. Right now, we're looking at 8.5. Raiders favored. Fez, your teaser piece is?
We're going to tease Oakland down to -2.5. This is as big a no-brainer as you will ever see, RJ. Geno Smith is starting for the New York Giants instead of Eli Manning. We know Geno Smith can't play a lick. I downgraded the Giants 3.5 points for that change, but the philosophy is huge. The Giants are telling their players, look, we're not going to try to win the rest of the year. We're not even going to experiment with our third-string quarterback. We just want to get Sam Darnold or a really good quarterback to replace Eli next year. They're having a commitment to not winning. So I got one team in the Raiders that are absolutely need a win like blood, and I got another team that doesn't care about winning. And in fact, management might even prefer losing. All we need to do basically is to win the game. Let's tease Oakland.
So 3.5 points. The market saying clearly, I mean, Geno Smith is one of the worst backups in the league, wouldn't you say? I mean, it's not like he was, a potential starter.
Yeah, it's shocking that they're going with them. And I mean, Eli was having a bad year, but it wasn't all his fault. The bad O-line lost all his wide receivers.
I think it's the signal from the front office that's a negative for the Giants, and I do lean Raiders, and I agree with you on the tease. I almost, though, like this more as a, what's that called? I've never played it, but I always want
a
pleaser. So you're giving up points, right? Because to me, this is a high variance game. Because if the Raiders start winning, they're going to want to, they've had a disappointing season. They'd love to win by 30 here.
My concern is that it's likely both the Raider wide receivers are going to be out. Crabtree is suspended. Cooper is in concussion protocol and has an injured leg. On top of it, you may not have enough firepower to cover the pleaser.
And that's a good, there you go. That's why he's Faz. Okay, so I lean Raiders, but first piece of the teaser. All right, next. Oh, last thing. I also think it's a distraction. I mean, you look at Francesa, he's going wild about it now. So I think there's a signal to the team and also a distraction with Eli not playing.
And you've been a guy that's been adamant that teams don't tank. We've agreed the players won't tank, but there are disinterested players. If ever there's a time that's going to happen, it's here. We did see that with Buffalo. Angry players don't like to try as hard as motivated players.
Smart money on this game for Matty Holt. Even down the middle with good handles. A lot of betting on this, but pretty much down the middle. Okay, next game. Derivative bet Colts, Jags. Jags 9.5. Even a little extra vig on the Jags. Jags at home. What's your derivative?
I'm going first quarter under 7.5. You can lay up to minus $1.60. It's probably going to be 7 to 7.5 because the total's 40.5. I love the game.
But how much is 7? If you have 7, so if let's say you lay $1.60, a 7.5 under, where would you lay under 7?
Under 7, lay $1.15.
Okay, so worth about 45 cents.
50 cents. Really important. One touchdown, and you land on the number. Jacksonville, Blake Bortles does not throw touchdowns early in games. He is a game manager. They hand the ball off, and they let the defense win the ball control, and they get a field goal, then they get ahead, and then the defense takes over. And also, Kobe Brissett, absolutely, I saw him play. He was terrible. He got sacked 8 times. He held the ball too much. They tried to throw too much last week. I think they're going to come in trying to run the ball more, especially against Jacksonville, where they should go ahead and have some success running the ball. First quarter under.
We both had the Colts last week. Tough beat at the end of the game, I thought. But the narrative for us was Brissett's trending upwards. Did you see, was it one game you're not all that worried, or did you see something that really worries you about Brissett?
I saw a concerning factor that he just was under duress. Not even that much duress. He just held the ball way too much, and he got sacked 8 times. 8 sacks is an awful lot, and if there's one team in the league that has been very proficient at sacking teams that hold the ball too long, it is the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's why I would lean that one matchup advantage to the Jaguars, even laying the big number.
Do you look at playing yes to a defensive touchdown?
I think it's probably a good idea. Plus 170 or more, yes.
Okay. I am going to pass this game. I usually would think Colts for sure, but I believe the Jags are one of the best teams in the NFL when they're up by a touchdown or more because they run the ball so well and they have such a fierce pass rush, good against the pass in general. So if they know you're throwing from behind, so in a weird way, a team that can't throw, you would think isn't great to lay a big number like the Jags, but the Jags grind you, baby. When they're up, they tend to extend those leads, so I'm going to pass. Next game. Oh, wait. I'll wait. I'm going to give the coupon here in a game or two, but this is where the action gets very explicit. Smart money, double like, triple like, best bets coming up. As we like to say, the stakes are going up. Eagles, Seahawks, big game here. And man, the Eagles bet up to 6 at Seattle. First time in about 6 years, the Seahawks have been bigger than a field goal underdog at home. Forget 6 now. And the smart money is on Philadelphia. Right? It's a driving the line move. Philadelphia smart money. This is also another PR power rating edge game. So, Fez, if we just do the math, there's a power ratings edge in this game, and it's on. So the math says Philly should be favored by 2.5. Instead, they're favored by 6. So your edge says Seattle. Do you like Seattle?
I do like Seattle, and I think you might.
Wait, you lean Seattle.
I'm upgrading to like because I'm saying you're likely going to even get a better number because it's an underdog in a prime time game, and the Eagles are 9-2 against the spread right now. RJ, the Eagles have won 4 straight games, all against cupcakes, by 20+ points. This team is absolutely rolling. I have them as the best team in the NFL, as do almost everyone, and because of that, they've become an absolute, the public's favorite team to bet on. And we're seeing that Seattle, what's the book on Seattle? Best home field advantage in the league. Maybe when they're a double-digit favorite, it's no more than 3.5 points, but it's 4 on average. It's probably 4.5 to 5 points as a home underdog here. Put this line in perspective. This was a game of the year before the season started. Seattle's 7-4. They're meeting expectations almost, although they have some injuries. They were laying 7 against the Eagles in this game. Now they're catching 6 points. Another point spread to put this in perspective. The Eagles just played in Dallas a couple weeks ago. Dallas is crippled. The Eagles opened -3.5. Seattle's way better than Dallas. Now the Eagles, that point spread tax is kicking in. They're laying 6, and it's probably only going up.
Okay, so you do your Fezzik forecast, which you talk about line moves, and historically you've given 5 picks or line move projections a week, and the games that don't move at all we toss out, but the games that do move, you've been right about 70% of the time historically, and you put that out again on your Twitter at Fezzik Sports, FEZZIK, and pregame.com in the forums. And Fez is great talking to you. If you got any questions from this pod or anything really, jump in the forum, do a post. Fez is going to respond. Really connecting with the followers, the listeners, the viewers, because he also does his videos. Just go to YouTube, search for Pregame TV. Him and Brad Powers do great videos. Is Fez's and the other pros' willingness to connect with those that enjoy the information, I think it's unmatched, no doubt about it. When do you typically release your Furious 5 forecast?
Tuesday. It hasn't happened yet. It's going up tonight. So
we're taping on Wednesday.
Wednesday night it's going up.
And usually it's Tuesday. All right. So you're going to get good late info, but by Thursday for sure.
By Thursday for sure.
So when you're listening to this every week, guys, NFL comes out Thursday morning. You obviously can check out the forecast. Is this going to be one of your predictions?
No.
That it goes up?
No, because I have a double prediction here. It's going to go up, and then right before the game is played, it's going to crash. The pros are going to wait and take as many points as they can get the hour before kickoff.
Because you're on Seattle.
I think a lot of pros are going to be on Seattle, especially if the number inflates.
Last question. I had real concerns about the Dream Crusher, how hard Seattle would play last week. From watching the game, what did you see effort-wise? Yeah,
I saw good effort, and, they are a quality team that has dealt with adversity before. I think what I missed was Seattle. I worried about the Dream Crusher also off that Atlanta loss, and that was a tough loss at home. Could have gone either way, but remember the book on Seattle. Seattle always improves in December. Now, they've got those key injuries in the secondary, no Richard Sherman, and missing a couple other starters, but December is Seattle's time. That's where they've always improved under Pete Carroll.
Good stuff. All right, next game. Double like. Panthers, Saints. Saints at home favored by 4.5. Let's get the smart money. No big action yet as of Wednesday. And we got this report right before taping here Wednesday afternoon in the pregame.com offices. Fez, who do you like?
Like New Orleans, really good spot for the Saints. Premium team that finally got beat, and it was a forgivable loss. They went ahead went into the Rams. They're missing two of their cornerbacks, Crawley and Lattimore. And I think that was ultimately the difference in the game where they lose a close game. Contrast that with Carolina. They lose Olsen. They don't lose him, but he's not effective at all. He could come back from injury. So Cam was not effective, which surprised me. He had been playing very well. My only concern, I would really like New Orleans, like premium through the roof, if you give me these cornerbacks, Crowley and Lattimore back, but I don't know if they're going to play.
Right, and right now, though, it's uncertain. It's not certain. They're not going to play.
Questionable.
All right, so do you think the line moves on that?
That's a great question. Because
I bet it does, because there's a lot of talk about rookie of the year and on defense and all this stuff.
Probably half a point, but I tell you what, Lattimore is worth more than that. And if I don't get these guys, I'll make a small pizza bet. If I get them both, I'll make a really big bet, and I'd lay 5.
Okay, I like the Saints. Also, to me, I'm just not a Panther fan. I get it. I just think Cam's too up and down, and I think the Saints are bouncing back. Like we said, this is going to be a focus game. And also, now listen, this one lost last time, but boy, it's a big trend, is when the Saints are home, if the team is better than 500, which leads to crowd enthusiasm, last 21 games, 17-3-1 against the spread. 17-3-1 when the Saints are above 500 at home. And to me, I don't think there's any doubt there's going to be crowd enthusiasm. And when there is, Saints have one of the best home fields, probably 4 points, right? In those kind of spots?
Yeah, I think 4 is the number, right there with Seattle.
So double like on the Saints. Okay, we got one more double like and then a triple like. Next double like. And it's a PR edge. So let's start there. Power ratings edge play. And we can see why there's such an edge. Chiefs, Jets. Chiefs favored by 3.5 in some spots. And we're going to be going with the Jets. So we'll take that extra hook. Chiefs 3.5. And Fez, the math says there's real value on the Jets. And when I say the math, the Fez math of your power ratings.
Yeah, I like the Jets. I have to wonder, maybe the odds makers and the public think they're playing this game at a neutral site, because I would have made this line 3.5 at a neutral. I have Kansas City a slightly above average team, 1 point better than average team, and I have the Jets 2.5 points worse than an average team. Curiously, if you look at the underlying stats of both teams, they're much closer together than even that. Basically, Kansas City, I think, is just slightly positive net yards per play, and the Jets are right at 0 net yards per play. But Kansas City, if you do any kind of weighting average, they started 5. And this was absolutely a team kicking butt. They've been a very much below average team. And because of that, I could make the case the Jets are actually playing better, catching 3.5 at home. Now, I get the argument, hey, Kansas City, they just lost as a big favorite last week. Shouldn't they bounce back? Well, they should have bounced back the week before, because they've just lost as a big favorite back-to-back weeks.
I agree. And to me, it's one thing if a team just is randomly cold, and if you look and a couple turnovers, an injury that people aren't valuing. But when I read on it and listen to the guys that know the X's and O's, they're saying they're struggling. Since the Steelers played a certain type of cover 2 against them, is every team's been doing it, and the Chiefs just have not figured out how to respond to it. And they've had one of the worst. Everyone always thinks, solid team, good coaching, good defense. Well, if you look at Kansas City's yards per play on defense, number 26 in the NFL. On offense, they've been 5, right? 5 in the NFL. But if you look recently, the offense is in the 20s too.
Yeah, and a lot of that is the rookie running back Hunt was just a stud. He was picking up 6 yards per play, and he was from not even a Big 5 conference, so kind of an under-the-radar guy. He's clearly has worn down. He's only averaging 3 yards per rush, half of what he was getting the first 5 weeks. That's a big part of it, and Alex Smith is not playing well.
Yeah, agreed. So to me, I don't think the stat, usually in a 16-game season, you hope the stats can stay applicable throughout the season, because you need at least all the games to start to feel like the stats can tell you anything. But like we said, Bills, key change there. And I think whatever's happening schematically, this Chiefs team, if the season started in the Pittsburgh, I mean, think about it. Now, I know it's not fair to say it that way, because there are data points before that. But if you can actually connect some coaching schematic change and say from here on, this is how good the team's played, I mean, where would the Chiefs be? What would they be, 28th or 29th in your ratings if it was from Pittsburgh on?
Yeah, they've only won one game since they started 5-0. And look at what's going on with the Jets. They're playing better each and every week. I'd make the case they completely outplayed Carolina last week. Special teams touchdown, Carolina. Defensive score touchdown, Carolina. And so Carolina is barely winning the game, even with both of those up 5. They kick a field goal with 20 seconds left to win and cover, win by 8. Phony final. So the Jets get another home game after giving away a game that they should have won outright.
Yeah, so I like this one too. So double like on the Jets. Okay, let's talk. Guys, by the way, coupon time. What a week. We had such a surge. I mean, we're up like 3x. Like starting the season versus today, triple the people listening to the Dream Preview. And that, quite frankly, is because of you. Why? Because you give us a 5-star on iTunes, let's say, or the platform that you listen to us on. You send an email with the link to your friend. You tweet it. You put it on Facebook. That stuff helps us grow, and it helps us put money and time into the pod. We not only are very thankful, and I try to express that personally every week, but also if you want the best bets from Fez or any of the pros, we give you a coupon every week based on how well you're doing. Well, you would be starting back at $10 off because you did so well. I'm not only going to 11, I'm going to 12. NFL Dream 12. NFL DREAM, the number 1, the number 2, NFL Dream 12 $12 off anything, any NFL pick now through Sunday. NFL Dream 12, triple like time, baby. And by the way, after that, we've got 2 best bets, and one of them is a crossfire and a DVOA disagreement, and the second part of Fez's tease. I mean, this is probably the most action-packed game. But first, the triple like. 49ers, Bears at home, favored by 3.5 in some spots. And the smart money for Matty Holt on the 49ers. Fez, you like the 49ers? I like the 49ers. Triple like, make your case.
See, we agree on most of the games. RJ, you just enjoy disagreeing more because your debate skills kick in. I love the 49ers. I've got more reasons than I have time to talk about it. Let's start out with Jimmy Garoppolo. How much better is he than the stiff that's been playing quarterback?
Oh, I'll give you more time.
we can't really be certain, but I upgraded San Francisco 4 points for the quarterback change. I think that might well be light. That's only because he doesn't have the familiarity of a year with the offense. He only threw 2 passes. Hey, they got a touchdown at the end of the game. Last game when they lost to Seattle. Also, Garoppolo, where is he from? He is from the Chicago area, so no concerns about playing in any cold weather, and a little added edge coming back home to Chicago to play here. The Bears, wow. First half against the Eagles, no first downs. The Eagles, 14. They absolutely.
So the Bears had no first downs?
None. So they played as bad. The quarterback rating for Trubisky, 0.5. The worst quarterback rating for a quarterback is recorded in 20 years that had 30-plus attempts last week. And one more reason to hate the Bears here. I can't believe this one. John Fox, when he's been favored, he's coached 3 years for the Bears. He's been favored 6 times, RJ. He is 0-6 against the spread. That's not good. As a favorite, he's 0-6 straight up.
I got to tell you, that was like you prepared for a month on that one. That was strong. Woo! Good stuff, Fez. I can't add much more. I agree with you. If anything, I almost wish Garoppolo was going to start, but he didn't do what he did last week, because I don't think it tells you very much, but I think it's got people excited. But this line doesn't seem to account for it. I mean, we both bet the Bears against Green Bay. That was their, big brother, little brother fight back game. Since then, they've been such a disappointment. I mean, it's like, I think it's important to kind of quantify. Last season, the Bears were net yards per play 0.4 yards, which this year 0.4 would be literally number 10 in the NFL. So they were somewhere, I think they might have been 12 or 13, but this year, if you're plus 0.4, you'd be number 10, right? Behind the Rams are only plus 0.5 this year, right? Okay, so, and Matt Barkley started 7 games. So the thought was, this is such a good team. They had bad quarterback play, couple bad breaks, overrated or underrated. That was the thought. Agreed entering the year.
Oh, absolutely. The wise guys were on the Bears to go over 5.5 wins.
Now they're minus 0.3 on the season. So they're literally down 0.7 of a yard, which is a pretty big drop. And I think this narrative about them being good they're just not that good statistically either. Forget all their other problems.
Yeah, and it didn't help them that they lost their 2 best receivers before the season, basically before the season.
Yeah, but we knew that
going.
when we bet them against the Packers. We knew that every game.
Sure.
So it's just to me, when a team loses games that you know they're all in, like the Packers, and then they, what was it? The Lions were next, if I remember, and they didn't cover. And
they pushed on the number, actually. That was the gut punch because it was tied and the Lions hit a 51-yarder to end the game.
And then they don't show up last week. I mean, to me, I think part of what I like about Garoppolo is the energy. You know the team is going to be up because of him, and we're getting 3.5.
The rare case where the 1-win team, RJ, is going in the right direction. They're excited. They just got a win recently. The 3-win team has the lame duck coach, and they know that they're toast.
All right, good stuff. Well, it's that time again.
Don't know about the future, that's anybody's guess. Ain't no good reason for getting all depressed. Fire up your pad and pencil, I give you a piece of my mind.
Should I start singing? Like maybe have Blossom be a little lower and then I'm singing kind of melody?
I did not know who Blossom was. I still don't.
I got a feeling you'd have a crush on Blossom. That's what I'm going to say.
Jacqueline Smith. Cheryl Ladd.
All right. This is my best bet, but it's also a crossfire. All right, we got the Titans. We got the Texans. We also have a Football Outsiders disagreement. Let's start there. All right. So you've got the Titans, Fez, number 13. I can't believe this. Number 13. And Football Outsiders says 22. I think they're around 18 or 19 or 20. So I'm more towards Football Outsiders, but huge difference. Any idea what?
I don't think I reflected enough the strength of schedule number. The Titans have really played a cupcake schedule. Look at that division and what's happened with the starting quarterback.
Number 30 by the Sagarin strength of schedule.
Yes, and I think also they won and they covered last week, and it was a phony cover. They really should not have covered that game.
Agreed.
And I should have downgraded them despite the cover. And
so now I had 2. I picked you off twice today.
2-0, baby.
All right, so we won't belabor that point. Now let's segue to the game. Titans favored by, there's 7s out there. So I think I should take Texans plus 7, which is my best bet. Texans plus 7. And I guess I'll go first because it is my best bet, even though it's a crossfire. I do a hour national show with SB Nation, another show. Fred Fowler's the host. He's a Houston radio guy, and he follows Houston closely. Very sharp, very sharp. And he said he saw more energy from the Texans than any time since the Watson injury. O-line played relatively well last week. So I think there's a situation where the Texans are still playing. And when you have decent teams that are getting points and they're still playing hard, that's where I think you find value. And this is in division. So there's no way the Texans are going to roll over. So I think plainly this is a value play. I think the Texans are a little bit underrated, and I think the Titans are way overrated. I mean, 7-4? Is that right? 7-4? Absurd. This team's not 7-4. Mariota is regressing compared to last year. They've just had, quite frankly, an inordinate number of easy games, lucky bounces, the whole thing. And it's a pure value play. Best bet Texans. Now, you actually like Tennessee. I can't even comprehend that. And you have a teaser on the Titans, which is more defensible because you're going through, or at least off a 7 and down to 3. Make your case.
2 reasons. Tom Savage, 4.3 yards per play with him under center. We spoke about Baltimore being the worst offense in the NFL. Correction, second worst. With Savage, Houston's been the very worst team. But really, the reason for me liking Tennessee here, and
you're talking offense there. Obviously.
I'm talking offense. The reason I like Tennessee, and I think revenge is overrated, but this week it's revenge week in Week 13 in the NFL. I'm going to give you a final score here, RJ. Tennessee 14, Watson and the Houston Texans 57. That's right. Heinz 57 sauce. They annihilated. They beat this team like nothing you've ever seen. And I really feel that because of that, this game is circled for the Titans.
Good. I like the logic there, except it's back to the old, can you go past 10 on the amp, right? I think it's a division game. I think Tennessee's obviously battling Jacksonville. So I don't understand exactly how you need more motivation. So if somehow this was questionable motivation for Tennessee, I would say, oh, great point. But I think they're maxed out anyway.
And I don't believe in the max out. I really think that every NFL player, and we talked about this before, come the kickoff, they're ready to go. It's the preparation time. It's easy to look at the paper and see you're a 6.5 to 7 point favorite and relax more often than not, except when you have a really important reason to not be relaxed.
So your point is that you like Tennessee because they're going to give 110%.
Anybody beat... I can tell you this. I'll go back to my chess playing days when I was quite a stud. I don't want to brag.
A stud at chess?
Yes.
Did you have like a neck? Did you have like the buttons of your shirt, like 3 of them down and like a rook on a necklace?
It's a good idea. But I can tell you on the rare case that I would lose to a kid who I was better than, I would absolutely spend extra time preparation, and I would bring it and I would blow him out the next time I played.
I was looking at the soundboard. Was there any kind of music that screamed nerd? But there isn't. But now,
nerd.
All right. And by the way, you've got the teaser also on the Titans. That's the second leg of the teaser. My best bet, Texans. Remember, get to 7, baby. Get to 7. All right. I bet all my best bets. I've bet probably, I'd say there's probably been maybe 50 days I haven't bet since I was 14, and that's the truth. But Fez, you bet even more than I do, and when you give a best bet.
What are you doing? Wise guy don't carry his money in a wallet. Hey, wise guy carries money in a roll.
Best bet?
Best bet. Let's go to Green Bay. How much do I like this bet, RJ? We were taping videos, and we suspended videotaping for me to bet this game. It just came out, the line today. Green Bay catching 2 to 2.5 points. I think it's 2 right now against Tampa Bay. It was named Winston the starter, and the markets reacted favorably. They made Tampa Bay the favorite. I think that they reacted incorrectly. I think that Fitz was the better choice. All the distractions with Winston, and now he's going to go ahead and start. Of course, I'm concerned about my quarterback for Green Bay, Hundley. He's played 6 games. He's played 4 bad games. However, now he's played 3 games, and in 2 of the 3, he's looked pretty darn good. I also have a soft Florida team from Tampa Bay that's out of any kind of contention, traveling to Green Bay in the wintertime. And Green Bay has a very good home field advantage. I only have these teams 2 points apart in my power ratings, and Green Bay probably should be getting 3.5 at least with the home field advantage plus the weather advantage on top of it. Wrong team's favored. Take Green Bay plus the 2.
Okay, so that's interesting. So plus 2. So if this game were in Tampa, the line would be like Tampa 8.
Impossible.
Oh, I like it. I'm right with you there, Fez. I am right with you, guys. We did not mess around this week. A lot of good stuff from Fez. We also, though, we're doing a Thursday breakaway. So go to @RJ in Vegas on Twitter, @RJ in Vegas, or go to pregame.com in the forums, and there'll be SoundCloud, a little SoundCloud file with the Thursday game in it. We'll be breaking down just like this. Also, Fez sat in on college. Me, Fez, Ken Thompson, Brad Powers. Check that out.
Wisconsin's going to win.
Come on, Fez. He actually drank a full sugar Mountain Dew during this, and I think we should restrict.
On Wisconsin, go, go, go. Jump around.
You know, that wasn't Walter White giving you that Mountain Dew, was it? I got to tell you, we're going to give Fez more Mountain Dew. Good stuff. And you're getting a little of his personality. Don't hold it against him. Talk to you there.
Thanks for listening to RJ Bell's Dream Preview. Catch the Wise Guy Roundtable each week. College football released on Wednesday, NFL on Thursday. Don't miss any winners. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Visit podcastone.com and download the Podcast One app. Have a question for RJ? You can contact him directly on Twitter at RJ in Vegas. Live the dream with us each week.
What's it like for you watching games of your son coaching?
Agonizing.
It's a family affair on Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast.
You know, I didn't know there was actual work here.
Recent guests include Rich Eisen, Judge Judy, John Harbaugh, and the Sklar brothers.
That was definitely a great moment to tell our parents, hey, we're not going to go to law school. We're just going to go ahead and do a job we could have done out of high school. Thanks for paying for college.
Exclusively on Podcast One Sportsnet. Get episodes every Tuesday at Podcast One and Apple Podcasts.
Hey, it's Jay Moore, and it is time, finally, for America's Lakers podcast. That's right, I'm going to be hosting America's Lakers podcast. My man Aaron Larsoul, an analytical genius, he's going to bring to the table what I can't every Wednesday. America's Lakers podcast exclusively at podcastone.com, the podcastone.com app, which I highly recommend. You can rate and review this podcast on all Apple products. And guess what we're not going to do? We're not going to bathe in the gossip and the gratuitous negativity that's been swallowing Los Angeles whole lately. Who did what? Who snitched? Who said what? How about truth? How about facts? How about statistics? How about rotations? What's Luke Walton thinking? Who's underperforming? Who's overachieving? Who's rewarded? Who's coming? Who's going? And what are we going to do with all that delightful, delicious cap space? America's Lakers podcast with me, Jay Moore, and my man, my brother, Aaron Larsoul, every Wednesday, podcastone.com.